Good afternoon, my YouTube viewers. It is Palestine here. I wasn't really intending to make another video until next week because I didn't have anything health-wise to discuss. But I'm just really upset about something today, and so I decided that I wanted to make a video. I can't go into too much detail about what has happened, but if you've watched my previous videos, my previous video says that I was harassed out of my job at Foster Wheeler, and when I tried to report to the authorities the harassment and abuse that I was being subjected to, I was just told that I was mentally ill and I was sectioned and I was given a diagnosis of a mental illness. And by the way, Foster Wheeler, if you watch my videos, you know that Foster Wheeler was bought by AMEC, and so it became AMEC Foster Wheeler, and then that Foster Wheeler ran AMEC to the ground, and then Wood bought AMEC Foster Wheeler, and Foster Wheeler ran Wood to the ground, and then Wood was bought by a Middle Eastern company called Sadara. I believe it was Sadara, but wouldn't get to keep its name. Even though it was bought by Sadara, it still gets to keep the name Wood. And I just was reading the news today, and Wood has been fined, I think something like 19 million pounds for putting incorrect data in their financial statements. And I think 2023 and 2024 or something like that, but they were putting incorrect data in their financial statements. So basically, Foster Wheeler started the wheel rolling with this corruption, and then it went over to AMEC, then it was AMEC Foster Wheeler, then it was Wood, and now I believe it's Sadara. But they're still carrying on. They're still, even though they've been bought by other companies, they're still carrying on. And basically, they've been fined again for putting incorrect data in their financial statements. But even so, even though it's now public knowledge of all of the corruption that Foster Wheeler was involved in, I was still told I was mentally ill. And then after that happened, I started having problems at home. And I think what it is, I do think that this situation was financially motivated, because where I live, the people have my signature. Foster Wheeler, that had my signature. I was working for a charity, which I haven't really talked about a lot, but, I was volunteering, not working. And I'm not going to name them at this time, but they had my signature. And I was going to a church, and they had my signature. Well, I don't know if they had my signature, but I know definitely that Foster Wheeler, where I lived, and this charity I volunteered at, they all had my signature. So I feel that the harassment and abuse that I was subjected to was financially motivated, because at least 3 organizations had my signature. They could easily have taken insurance policies out on me since they had my signature. And then obviously, if something happened to me, then they could claim on the insurance policies. Now, obviously, the only proof that I have is the fact that I was harassed and abused out of my job at Foster Wheeler, very nearly out of my home. and not working, volunteering for that charity anymore. I'm not going to that church anymore because I do believe the church had something to do with it because they knew where I lived. I don't think they had my signature. I don't know if they had my signature, but they knew where I lived. And I do think it was a conspiracy. And because all of this stuff went on, I was told, not only was I told that I was mentally ill, I was given another diagnosis of another mental illness. And so that I couldn't do anything about that. The UK government is telling me that I'm mentally ill. They're forcing me to take medication for this so-called mental illness. And now what's happened is, again, something happened through no fault of my own. I was on a 0-hour contract. There in 2027, the UK government, from what I understand, the UK government is going to make 0-hour contracts illegal. But I was on a 0-hour contract. And so because these 0-hour contracts are being made illegal, I was put on a permanent contract of employment. So I was switched from a 0-hour contract to a permanent contract of employment. So basically, on the 0-hour contract, I was paid 1 month in arrears, and the permanent contract of employment, I was paid in arrears. So in 1 month, they paid me for 2 months in one pay period, and that's what happened. And then so because of what happened, and it was no fault of my own, they took my benefits away from me because of what happened. And they took my benefits away from me in December, and I was really trying to resolve it. And this organization that took my benefits away was really nasty and was telling me that I worked too many hours, which I didn't work too many hours. It's just they paid me in arrears in one bank statement. I've been trying to get that sorted out since December. So before Christmas, I sent all the documents through. They have said that they never received it. After Christmas, I went to this charity asking for help. They rang this organization and they said, well, you just have to wait for a phone call. So I waited till the end of the month and I didn't receive a phone call. So I went to the other charity, and then they didn't want to speak to the organization. They told me to contact my MP. So I sent my MP an email. It took 3 weeks to receive an email back from the MP, and he just said that I had to send them everything that I had sent this organization and give him written permission to contact this organization on his behalf. So that was going to take more time and money. So, and then while this was going on, I hurt my thumb, you know about my thumb, and I was really upset because some man was yelling at me in the hospital. And so I decided I was going to ring this organization. They said that they never received the documents. They never even contacted me to tell me that they hadn't received the documents. They didn't write me or anything. And then so I had to resend the documents a week ago on Tuesday. I sent it first class. I didn't send it recorded because I don't have the money. I don't even have the money to send anything first class, much less send it recorded. And so somebody was telling me, oh, if you have a reference number, you can track it. So I went onto the Royal Mail website and I was trying to track the documents because I had a reference number, and then it wouldn't track it. And then so I looked it up on the internet, and the internet said that they won't track documents that are first class. So it was a waste of time for me to track the documents. So this morning I thought, oh, well, I think I'll ring this organization up again. So I rang the organization up again, and guess what? They said that they haven't received the documents. And I'm really upset. I'm very, 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 very upset. And I asked, I said, well, what's the next step? You know, they could tell that I was upset. I said, what's the next step? because I've sent these documents to you 2 times now, and 2 times now you've said that you haven't received them. What's the next step? So he said he was going to submit another mandatory review and ask somebody to contact me. And so I get upset, I get upset about all this because this is to do with my livelihood. And, I get upset and I feel suicidal. And you think, what can you do? What can you do? And so basically I decided that I'm going to get all the documents together again. And next week, I have to photocopy them again. This will be the 3rd time. This will be the 3rd time that I have photocopied them. And then I'm going to have to go to the job center. And I'm going to have to ask the job center to scan them in. And the reason why is because you can't trust the post. The first time the first time I sent them, it was a free post number. And I asked if I could post it. And they said, yeah, because it was free post. It didn't cost them any money. And I asked, could I post it since it was a free post number? And they said, yes. Well, they never received that. So I don't know if somebody didn't like me and decided to take the package out, even though they weren't going to lose out on it because it was a free post. Or if somebody at the post office decided to take it out, or somebody at this organization just decided, well, we don't want to give people benefits, so we're just going to say that we're just going to throw it away and say that we never received it. But something has happened. And then so I posted it a second time, posted it first class, a second time, first class, thinking it'll get there, and it hasn't got there yet. So the only thing I can do is get the documents together, and next week photocopy them again, and then take them to the job center, and then ask the job center if they will scan it in and send it to them. That's the only thing that I know to do. And I'm really upset because this financial situation, one, being harassed out of foster wheeler and being harassed in my home, and both occasions being told that it was all my imagination and that I was mentally ill, when I know it wasn't all my imagination. And my boyfriend was there when I was being harassed at home, and he knows that it wasn't imagination. And being forced to take drugs, and then getting cancer from the stress of it all. And then, and now having my benefits taken away from me when I didn't do anything wrong. I was working my permitted hours. And when I work the permitted hours, the money that I get working the permitted hours is not enough. It's not enough to pay my bills. And I have found it really upsetting. And people who have learning disabilities and aren't very bright, they don't understand the problems that I have, because I have a friend who has a learning disability and is dyslexic, and he thinks that if I can get a council house, then I won't have to pay rent. And he doesn't understand that even if you have a council house, you have to pay rent. And where I live, he says, because I have a tiny apartment, and it's like a studio apartment, so I don't have a living room or anything. And he said he thinks that I can move into a bigger apartment where I live. And I told him, no, I'm not going to move into a bigger apartment. I said, because number one, they don't like me, so they're not going to give me a bigger apartment. And number two, I would still have to pay rent. And then, so people who don't understand, they think that if you're living in a council house that you don't have to pay rent, and that's not true. That's not true at all. And then he doesn't understand because he inherited his house. He owns his house. So he doesn't have to pay rent and mortgage or anything. So he doesn't understand how stressful it is just for me to come up with enough money every month to pay my rent. And the money that I'm getting doing my permitted hours, it just pays my rent and my council tax, nothing else. So I think that's it. That's just what I wanted to talk about. And I know that I was sort of getting a little bit off the beaten track, talking about people not understanding my situation. But I'm in a real terrible situation, and I'm upset about this. I'm living off my savings. If at the moment, the money that I get doing permitted hours just pays for my rent and my council tax. If I want to do anything like buy food, I have to use my savings. And I still have this friend with a learning disability. He comes over to my house, and I give him food too, because he wants food, because he's in a bad situation at home, which I don't really want to discuss because it's his personal business. And then I know that he doesn't want me talking about his bad home life. He doesn't want anybody to know. And so I can't discuss his personal business. But he does come to my house, and I give him food, and any food that I give him is money that I'm taking out of my savings. And I could say, oh, I can't give you any food, I don't have the money. But I don't. I go ahead and give him the food, even though it's coming out of my savings. So that's it for this video. I just wanted to make this video to let you know that I'm very upset, very, very, very upset. And my financial situation is adversely affecting my health. And I just wanted you to let you know that and explain to you the situation that arose that caused this terrible situation that I'm in. So thank you so much for watching my video. If you like my video, please like and subscribe, and I will be making another video for you next week when I've had the injection in my eye. Thank you.